Okay, welcome back to another episode. Still haven't figured out a name, so we are going to just say welcome back to this channel. Okay, so today we're doing, I think this is our third or fourth episode, but this is actually going to be episode 1 of the Explainer series. So if you remember, the Explainer series is going to be a little bit more in depth, a little longer, and these are more specific topics. So today is going to be Anti-Federalists versus the Federalists, and so this is specific to U.S. politics. I'm not a history person. I did study politics, political economy was specifically my degree, but history was not my forte. So again, today will be Federalists versus Anti-Federalists. I think this is really important to talk about because I like to make the argument that modern day Democrats and Republicans are essentially modern Federalists and Anti-Federalists at the core. There's, of course, tons of differences between them, but at the core, I think they're very similar, and you'll kind of see why as we go. Okay, so first of all, it's important to understand that both the Federalists and Anti-Federalists are actually in favor of federalism. So that might sound kind of, well, wouldn't you say Anti-Federalists are Anti-Federalists? Well, no, not at all, actually. So Federalists and Anti-Federalists are in favor of federalism. And if you remember what federalism is, it's just simply the separation of powers between a central government and states, essentially. So their disagreement comes to what extent federalism takes hold. And so for the Federalists, back in the 1780s, when the Constitution was being written and the United States was being formed, the Federalists wanted a much stronger central government and believed that this strong central government would create greater unity, security, and would lead to greater growth of the country that they were creating. On the other hand, the Anti-Federalists were, of course, not in favor of this strong government, and you could probably easily make the argument that was because of, they had a deep underlying fear of a strong central government because they just essentially, they were breaking away from the monarchy of England at the time. So they of course were not in favor of a monarchy, and which is a unitary system where all the power is in the monarch, in the parliament's hands. And so, of course, the Anti-Federalists were not in favor. They wanted the states to hold a lot of the power, and the central government, essentially, they believed and wanted to be a weak central government. Okay, so while they both believed in federalism, there are differing views on the balance of power between how much power the state should maintain and how much power the central government should maintain. This was at the center of their disagreement. This is probably sounding a little familiar to today. So now fast forward to today. This is really at the very core. If you go to any disagreement between Democrats and Republicans of today, if you were to break it down in the easiest of terms, it usually comes down to one side wants the government to have more control, have more power, and one side prefers to leave it to the states. So I, of course, will never make the claim that this is the only difference, that Democrats and Republicans, their only difference is that, one wants more states' rights and one wants a stronger central government. There's a lot of differences. There's a lot of nuance. There's, of course, a lot of scenarios where Democrats, want more state rights and Republicans don't. So but at the very core, Democrats generally prefer a stronger central government. They want the government to maintain a lot of the power, and Republicans are much more in favor of states having a lot more power, and there's less interference from the federal government interfering in state affairs. Okay, so to just kind of wrap up this episode in really simple terms, I really just wanted to get at the difference between Federalists and Anti-Federalists because you'll hear the term used in your government class and politics classes. And the key thing to know is that, first, they both are in favor of federalism. It's not that the Anti-Federalists are anti-federalism. It's not the case. Both are in favor of it. It's essentially just a disagreement between the two at what extent the power is separated. Again, federalism can take a lot of forms. There can be extreme federalism and not so extreme federalism. The power can be separated at varying degrees. It's not black and white. It's not cut and dry. As much as I'd like it to be, and as much as everybody would like it to be, that's just not how it is. So again, when you talk about Federalists and Anti-Federalists, the Federalists were the group, the party, whatever you want to call it, that wanted a much stronger central government. And the Anti-Federalists were much more in favor of a weaker central government and more in favor of the states maintaining the power. And again, I like to make the argument that that's kind of bled into today. I'm sure plenty of people have pointed this out, and it's probably super simple and no one talks about it, but I think keeping politics really simple is really good. And so, again, I make the argument, and I'm sure a lot of people have, that Democrats and Republicans of today are essentially Federalists and Anti-Federalists. Again, Republicans, a majority of the time, want more state rights and a weaker government, a weaker central government, whereas Democrats are generally always fight for a stronger central government, and not to say that they want an absolute central government with no state rights. That's not the case. It's not the case at all. They just want the central government to be in a stronger position than the than the Republicans. So that's kind of where I wanted to get at with this video. We'll kind of go a little bit more into it in future videos, but for this video, I think that's enough.